Absolutely.
So in terms of controlling the laser beam, that can be done from the shutter itself. Turn the beam off, turn the beam on. Or it can be done from the local distribution box. So for instance, if this shutter was in the middle of the optical table and very hard to, you don't want to be leaning over the optical table to access the buttons. Or it could be inside an enclosure or whatever. So you can control the shutter, the laser beam, from the local remote switch. So close the shutter, open the shutter, close the shutter, open shutter. Alternatively, well, this beam shutter is connected into our, as I said, our ICS9 laser interlock system, and we also got installed here our CALM system. So if you have the CALM system installed, then we can also control the beam shutter from the CALM touchscreen. So we can close the shutter here, and we can open from here. So this is very useful if you want to be able to control the shutter remotely, because essentially this could be done from the other end of the lab, or depending on, you have to be very careful safety-wise doing this, but you could control it from a control room remotely using a touchscreen setup. Okay, so you can close, open the shutter. So you've got those three different options for controlling the shutter. Locally on the shutter, from the remote switch, or from the CALM touchscreen. So that's the basic functionality of the laser beam shutters. Now I want to describe the different shutters that we have. So our most commonly used shutter is the LS30 beam shutter. Okay, so this is our LS30. So again, we have the input aperture here and the exit aperture here. Okay, so input aperture here, output aperture there, exit aperture there. And then this is the beam dump here, and that can actually be removed and have an external beam dump fitted, such as is done here. So this has got an external beam dump fitted. So, and then in that case we would put a mirror on the blade. So we'd have a mirror blade specific to the laser beam wavelength, and the purpose of that is that means that you can use the laser with higher power. So typically we specify all of our shutters for up to 20 watts average power going into the internal beam dump. Yeah. So all of our shutters can be used with up to 20 watts average power going onto the internal beam dump here. But if you want to use more powerful lasers, then as I say, we put a mirror blade on, and it gets directed into an external beam dump. And then the power that it can be used with is dependent on the specifications of the mirror and the specifications of the beam dump. And we have a whole different set of beam dumps from 30, 40 watts up to kilowatts, multiple kilowatts for our water-cooled beam dumps. The thing that's unique about the LS30 beam dump is beam shutter, is that it can be operated in any orientation. So normally the beam shutters are in the horizontal orientation on an optical table, but as I say, what's unique about the LS30 is that it can also be operated in any orientation, including upside down. So all of our beam shutters, we design them for high quality and high safety integrity. The safety integrity of a shutter, in order to get the highest safety integrity, you need to use dual channel shutters. So all of our shutters, we call them like the SIL shutters because they conform with safety integrity level 3 or performance level E. Under ISO 13849-1, which goes into the various levels of safety integrity. The highest performance level is performance level E, PLE. So in order to achieve PLE, you need to use what we call a dual channel shutter, or we refer to them as SIL shutters. So all of our range of beam shutters are available the single channel like this, LS30, or as dual channel like this, LS30 SIL. So basically with a dual channel shutter, it's essentially two shutters in one, so that if the safety function fails to be maintained by the first shutter, the second shutter in line will maintain the safety integrity, the safety function, and then by monitoring it with a safety rated controller such as Lasermet ICS9, you can achieve performance level E. So we have our SIL shutters. We have LS30 SIL, also LS30, and then the dual channel version is the LS30 SIL. Okay. So we have that for all of our different shutters. The LS30 and LS30 SIL. So these are incredibly popular. And these have 16 millimeter aperture, beam aperture, or 60 millimeter aperture. Okay. So typically that's probably good enough for laser beams up to about 12 millimeters in diameter. But if you've got larger beam diameters, then you want to go to a larger aperture shutter. Okay, so then we are developing a 30 mil aperture shutter, but at the moment that's still in development. At the moment, the next size up is the LS300 50. So that's a 50 mil aperture shutter. So that would be this one. 50 mil aperture. And then we have the SIL version as well, which is the version that I was demonstrating earlier, which is basically the two shutters in one. So this is the LS300 SIL 50. Then we have larger aperture versions of the LS300. So we have the LS300 75, so it's a 3-inch aperture shutter. And we also do the SIL version of that as well, dual channel version of that. And then, if that's not big enough for you, we've got the LS300 100, so that's a 4-inch aperture beam shutter. And we do a dual channel version of that, the LS300 SIL 100. So as I mentioned, they're all rated for 20 watts using the internal beam dump, 20 watts average power using the internal beam dump. For higher average powers, then we put a mirror blade onto the shutter and then dump it into an external beam dump. So what I forgot to mention earlier is that for our LS30 and LS30 SIL shutters, we have OEM versions basically, which are available like this, basically on a chassis, without a case, with no case and no local controls. So they're designed specifically for integration into another system. Somebody, if people want to integrate it into their own system without the casing, without the local controls. So obviously, if that was inside a machine, you wouldn't need the local controls on it. So that's our OEM versions. I should also mention that we do custom beam shutters. So if you've got specific needs for a beam shutter, we got a whole R&D team here, electronics R&D, mechanical R&D, so we can do the whole package, develop a custom beam shutter for whatever applications that specific applications that you need. As I say, over the last 5-6 years, we've developed here in our R&D center, we've developed all of this complete range of beam shutters and beam dumps, and really proud of this range, the quality and the safety integrity of them. I'm really extremely happy with it. So, thank you.